MCU hasn't been the same since everything changed in Avengers Endgame. When Tony Stark sacrificed his life, that wasn't just the end of Iron Man, that was the moment that changed everything. And here's why. Before the Avengers, before Thanos, before the MCU really took off, there was one character, one man, Iron Man. Tony Stark didn't just launch the MCU, he defined it. He was reckless, he was self-centered, he was annoying, but that's what made him different. That's what made him stand out from the rest of the other superheroes. Over time, we didn't just watch a superhero fight supervillains and do all the typical superhero stuff. We saw a character of Tony Stark grow from movie to movie. In the MCU, where he was a guy that made weapons for profit rather than making weapons for good, in which he changes to making an armor which would help in the pursuit of stopping wars, to be able to protect the world from life-threatening situations. He did that. And I think he became this reckless, self-centered person to then becoming somebody that was dependable and a leader without intending to be. He was an anchor within the MCU and easily the smartest guy in the room that everybody would lean off. But then when his loss came in the Avengers Endgame, it didn't just hit like a normal superhero death would. It was bigger than that, because the impact, the anchor that was holding the MCU together was now gone. In Avengers Endgame, Tony finally makes the decision that he was avoiding all this time. No escape, no walking away from this. This was him sacrificing his life to save his friends and his family. This was a sacrifice bigger than any other that we'd seen in the MCU up until this point. When he snapped his finger and said, "I am Iron Man," that wasn't just a victory. That was an ending. That was him saying, "I'm out, see you in a bit. Now everybody else must continue without me and progress," and show that Thanos was wrong about snapping his finger. Or was he? And after Endgame, the absence was felt immediately in the next film. But Spider-Man Far From Home actually did something that we didn't think it could do. And that was move on without Iron Man. Spider-Man was able to grow, show the responsibilities of what it is to be a superhero. No protection, no Iron Man to back him up, and no Avengers to sit there and babysit it. This was a moment where he managed to break out on his own, and it showed why Tony Stark's death actually led to bigger things. It showed that in the MCU, that other superstars and other characters could grow within the MCU, and Spider-Man had had Far From Home and No Way Home to then show what it was to be a superhero without that protection of Tony Stark. That showed character development, that showed something and a positive of Iron Man's death, but that didn't happen for everybody. Yeah, they had success with other singles characters after Iron Man's death. Lena came through and did a good job in Thunderbolts and the Black Widow film. We also saw the likes of the Thunderbolts themselves come together. I think that we also saw Deadpool, Wolverine break through into the MCU. Yes, already made characters, but came into the MCU after Iron Man's death. However, others have arrived and have done nothing since. And the problem is with them coming in, they were there to replace the likes of Steve Rogers and Iron Man that end up leaving the MCU. Why? Because they were there to take the next generation, the next wave of MCU characters to the next level. The likes of Moon Knight hasn't been seen in the MCU since its show. We're seeing the likes of Echo, again, had a TV show and hasn't been utilised whatsoever. And if we're looking further down the line that hasn't worked, She-Hulk was terrible as a show and didn't flourish either. The whole Secret Invasion stuff, and I'm not just talking about the series here, but let's go into Eternals. That was a major flop as well. That group of superheroes just didn't work. These characters were meant to come through and help take the MCU to that next level. And I just don't think they quite got the balance right between the experienced characters of what we had when the likes of Guardians of the Galaxy came through and Ant-Man, of the likes of Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk and all these others. You've gotten characters, but they've not been integrated properly. So now they're just feeling like left parts. And certain ones like Miss Marvel have been used in shows and films and they've done fantastic. But like I said, there's been several occasions where now superheroes are getting introduced and not getting utilised. And this is becoming a big issue where the future of the MCU is going. Without Iron Man, the MCU lost its armour. It lost its foundation. The humour became less sharp. The direction of the MCU going became less clear. The leadership was no longer there. It felt like the MCU was making things up as they went along, pulling things into the universe that didn't quite stick. And that's why everything changed with Iron Man's death, because it meant that they had to make things up as they went along instead of planning in advance. Tony Stark's death didn't just break the MCU overnight, but it marked the moment where Marvel started to feel like it had lost control of its vision. It started to feel like things weren't sticking as well as they once did. It started to become things were just done as an experiment rather than trying to tie things into story-driven lines, and everything just seems like a big bundle of mess, and then they suddenly catch a little bit of a break with an odd film that here or there that comes. It seems that we're not getting consistent movies and TV shows which are going to drive the MCU forward. And since Tony Stark's death, we haven't seen that. Whether they're related or whether it's just coincidence, all we do know is that Iron Man's death changed everything, and not for the good.